Good morning. This is Bob Passy again, and this is another segment of Democracy Rising America. I want to focus especially on this whole idea that we can assume that the parties have chosen their candidates. There's no saying about assume is ASSUME, and the saying is that you have to be careful about assumptions. If you assume, you may make an ass of you and me. And that's because assumptions are based on incomplete information. So we have two candidates that look like they probably have more technical support than other candidates within each of the parties, but there's some real questions about that. And we all know about what happens in the ninth inning with 2 outs and the team 5 runs behind and come back somehow and win. We know about the Hail Mary pass in the last second of a game, or the 3-point shot from mid-court in a basketball game. We know all kinds of things. We know about the Truman election. It's not over till it's over. The other thing is that you have two very unpopular candidates. I can't remember of a time when nobody really likes either one. They'd rather have some other choices. But that's what we're being told that we're stuck with. I'm not sure that Donald Trump really wants to be president. I think that this was all a big publicity stunt, and he got going and he said, well, this is great publicity for me, and I don't really want to be president, so I can say anything I want, do anything I want, and what's going to happen? Worst thing that's going to happen is people will get excited, and then I'll lose, and I'll go on with my life, and I'll make a lot more money because I'm now even more popular than I was before. I still think that may well be the case. At any rate, his poll numbers are going down, and I think the Republican Party may, at the convention, change horses. Remember, this is politics. You have rules that are followed as long as they don't get in the way of what the party really wants to do. When the rules get in the way of what the party really wants to do, the party finds a way around the rules and does what it wants. So they may simply pick a new candidate. There are several that would give Hillary a really hard time, partially because her whole campaign has been aimed at not Trump. Now, and of course, the advantage Bernie has is Bernie would walk all over Trump. The polls all show that same thing. So it's a totally different thing if the Democratic Party happened to change horses. The Democratic Party, there's both candidates. There's blood in the water. I mean, Donald has all kinds of things that are making him an unsavory character, and he has, there's legal questions that are going on, and ethical questions, and his mouth. I mean, he keeps biting his foot off with his mouth. So there's all kinds of blood in the water for him. But Hillary has another kind of blood in the water. Some of her decisions and the things she pushed while she was Secretary of State are coming back to bite her. And her support of wars, and kind of people say there's never seen a war that she didn't like. And her ties to big money and corporations and supporting fracking and supporting the TPP. So that big money thing is a piece of baggage that she has to deal with. Then the other thing is the emails. Information keeps coming out more and more about that, and we don't know what's going to happen. Is the other shoe going to drop? Is she going to get charged with something? We don't know. I mean, and if it's going to happen, it would be way better for it to happen now than after she is chosen as the candidate. Worse yet is if it comes out after she's president, and then she'd be a wounded president. But she also has some ethical questions that are there, and the manipulations that went on in the primary processes are significant things. Not to mention that the fact that she is kind of turning her back on a whole very active, very vitalized group of people who want to be Democrats, and they're kind of closing the door on them. So she has some real issues that make her not necessarily the best candidate, but I think that the Democratic Party may say, we're just going to go with that. We don't care what the cost is. Or when it gets to be, if some other things happen and they get to the Democratic convention and people really say she's a weak candidate and Bernie is a strong candidate. There's no question about that. Bernie's a strong candidate. Bernie would get elected. Bernie would get elected. Why the Democrats would not want to back that is beyond me, but they may do that. But he is standing in the wings as a viable, very viable alternative, which would strengthen the Democratic Party, it would strengthen the nation, it would strengthen our position in the world. There's no downside to Bernie. So we have two candidates heading toward the conventions, and they are limping to the conventions, and there's blood in the streets, and no one should presume anything about how this is all going to turn out. So that's really what it is just because they declared victory and struck up the band doesn't mean that everything is done. While everybody is distracted by the hoopla, that 3-point shot from midcourt may go in, and the results will be very different than we expect. All right, so just something for you to think about. We'll talk to you later. Bye now.